So like many of you out there, I had heard of the meme known as Rogue Warrior, a 2009 first-person shooter that was best known for Mickey Rourke doing nothing but swearing up a storm and killing communists in the 1980s. Well, I finally got my hands on the game to fully see if it was as bad and as humorous as most people say, and well, let's just get into it. Now, while it does share both the name and protagonist of the autobiography of the same name, the game itself has absolutely nothing to do with it. I don't even think it is based off the fictional novels that the real Dick Marcinko wrote, so this game is an entirely separate entity from its real-life counterpart. You play as Navy SEAL Dick Marcinko, a foul-mouthed psychopath of a character voiced by Mickey Rourke.
Suck my balls, my hairy fucking big balls. Wrap them around your fucking mouth.
He is on a mission, along with a squad of two of his most trusted teammates, to gather intel from a North Korean informant. They touch down on North Korean soil, taking out a patrol of enemy soldiers before Marcinko's men are taken out in an absolutely and unintentionally hilarious manner. After this, Marcinko is out for blood. Not so much because of his team being wiped out, but more so because he's just flat out crazy. He goes around massacring any and all North Korean and later Russian soldiers in his path, all while calling them things you would most likely read in a 15-year-old's school notebook.
Goddamn cock breath coming, motherfuckers!
The story of the game is that Marcinko has to save the world from the commie threat. He finds out quickly that the North Koreans have been building weapons of mass destruction and have been in dealings with the Russians, and he has to put a stop to their sinister plans for ending the Cold War by heating things up. Every cutscene is practically the same after the hilarious opening. Marcinko sneaks into the enemy base, then usually leaves while it explodes into flames. This is the formula every single time. The story is every 80s Cold War action film, and while I want to say it has fun with its story, it just really doesn't. In fact, other than its loading screens when it tells you the decade the game takes place in, you wouldn't be blamed for mistaking it for any other modern military shooter. Voice acting is barely there outside of Mickey Rourke dropping an F-bomb or obscenity every other minute. While I did get a chuckle out of this the first few times, it lost its charm fairly darn quickly. They weren't even witty, they were just a few different swear words strung together.
The Soviet fucking Union fondled my area.
It was like listening to any kid on Xbox Live who has a headset for the first time.
Rock and roll, motherfuckers, rock and roll.
Outside of Rourke, there was maybe one other character who had any voice lines that talked to Rourke.
Marcinko, you copy that? Marcinko, respond, damn it! What the hell is going on?
Payback.
The Korean and Russian shouting that came from the enemies was the same 2 or 3 sound clips over and over again. The soundtrack for the game was actually alright compared to how everything else sounded. It was generic, sure, but it never drove me insane like how most of the other sound effects did. Everything was incredibly stock and sounded like I was playing a budget game. The game looks like a really early PS2 game and runs about as well as one. Textures are all dark and things like enemies and obstacles can be quite hard to see. I hope you like black and dark grays for your color palette because that is about the only colors you are going to see. The game's frame rate is terrible and it made being precise when aiming quite difficult. Levels almost all look the same, with the only fairly unique level being the manor, and I use the word unique only in the sense that it looks a bit different from the other levels, not that it does anything new or inventive compared to literally any other game on the market. This game's combat is the definition of subpar. There was no weight to any of the weapons, barely any weapon variety, and nothing felt good to use. Shooting enemies felt more like a chore as the game progressed, as sometimes your shots didn't even land. Enemies could also take you out fairly quickly if you did not stick to cover like the game wants you to. The reliance on cover makes Marcinko seem weaker than how the game wants to portray him. This is made all the worse because if you don't stick to cover and try to go out and shoot enemies in the open, you will die fairly quickly most of the time. You could, and I use this word very loosely, use stealth to sneak up behind enemies and perform a takedown move. In reality, there isn't stealth of any kind. You could run loudly up up to an enemy, and as long as you weren't in their field of vision, you could do whatever you wanted to them. While you can run loudly, silencers on the other hand don't do a single thing unless you manage to land a headshot. Takedowns, sort of like swearing, were fun to watch them each for the first time, but I quickly tired of having to sit through each 5-second or so animation each time I used a takedown. The only reason they were useful was to conserve ammo for certain weapons you couldn't find in the level anymore. Guns were exactly what you would expect from this type of FPS, and they are even less creative than that. There was basically one of each weapon outside of Marcinko's equipment that he started each mission with. He started each level with a machine gun and silenced pistol with infinite ammo. There was no ammo for your starting weapon anywhere around the level, so you would end up ditching it for one of the enemy's AK-47s. There was basically one gun for each weapon type, with one or two other different weapon models found maybe once or twice in a single level out of the 8-level campaign. There was maybe 3 different enemy models max. The Russians and North Koreans appear to share the same model aside from the face and insignia texture, so yeah, their designs were lazy and stock. They weren't fun to fight either, as they could, as previously stated, kill you quickly, and they sometimes could sponge up damage. This game was an hour and a half long. That's it. Once it's over, you get rewarded with a hilariously awful rap song that is just voice clips from work compiled together against a beat.
Ooh, fucking commies keep getting in my way. Well, surprise, motherfuckers.
Happy fucking birthday.
That's right, 99, you sweet piece of shit. Enjoy the ride, cocksucker. Have a nice trip. Boom time, baby. Trick or treat. Looks like a party. Come on. I got places to go and people to meet.
After that, you are thrown to the main menu with an empty spot in your chest once you realize you fell for a meme that is honestly not all that funny outside of a few select scenes. So that's it! Rogue Warrior is not worth a playthrough, and most certainly not worth your $3. It's a bad game that should only be experienced from the clips you might have seen online. Nothing in it is worth playing for. Save your money and save your time. It offers you nothing when there are a lot of other actually good games out there for the same price and offer way more enjoyment. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please consider sharing with your friends or checking out my Patreon link down below. If you have any recommendations for what you would like to see me review or have a discussion for me, leave those down in the comments as well. I appreciate everything you guys have to say, and I read and respond to everything. Thank you all so much for watching. This is Thierry Williamson, signing off until the next video. See you guys!
Better dead than red, asshole.